Hey, everybody. We're a few minutes early, but I figure it would give us a chance to go ahead and say what's up to everybody out there. Um, again, hit us up in the comments. I'll be able to see those. There is a little bit of a lag between when you type something and when it actually comes through onto YouTube. So I just want to let y'all know that I know we had some comments last time. Yeah, but I'm really excited. It's been a long couple of weeks since we last did this. We're trying our first evening stream, so that's pretty fun. Going to try to keep mixing it up, maybe do one during the day for people who, like me, work from home and have a harder time doing things at night, and then probably alternating between a daytime and then an evening for those of us who are watching that have like real jobs where they don't get to come home and then they can see us then. So we're still learning. We're still trying things out. It's all a learning process. The whole last couple of months have been nothing but learning processes for us all. I hope that y'all are taking the time to some downtime, some reflection time, but then also time to kind of, look at what you're doing. Does it make sense? Is that something you want to keep doing? It's time. Use it. Definitely need some time for healing, right? That's for sure. But yeah, not today, because this is an episode of Josh Says Mean Things. I don't really say too many mean things. It's just a funny title for the show. It's just something to do. It's kind of an homage to when Andrew and I had a little YouTube show. We called it Josh and Andrew Say Mean Things. And so that's kind of where this all comes from. Yeah, so hopefully we get a couple of viewers. I know, let's see if we can break 10, maybe 20. That'd be fun. But again, we're just starting. We're just, we're still learning all these things. It's fun to set up all this equipment. I have a whole background stand set up and lights and a good use for all the gear that's not getting a whole lot of use right now. We're not doing a whole lot of shooting. Well, that's not true. We're doing a lot of our Voyeur series, which I hope some of y'all have checked out. It's been really fun, giving me something to do, but also as a way to use photography as a commentary on what's going on right now. Right, we're all staying at home. We're all quarantining. We're being safe. We're adjusting to a new way of life. And so I wanted to put my own spin on that and show how I feel more than, or how I think the situation feels, and less happy photos. I think a lot of photographers have taken the track of doing happy photos, right? The front porch photos, and nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But for me, that's not how I felt. So I wanted to show the mood, the surrealism of it all, showing the vibe, I guess you could say, of what people are doing, the moods that we go through, the kind of unmoments. I wasn't directing people all that much when we were doing these. I would kind of tell them a general, and then I was on the other side of a wall. And so it was nice to be able to just kind of wait for those moments when people let their guards down. And I think a lot of the photos kind of show that, right? That space inside of our back rooms in our house where we kind of take our mask off, let our shoulders droop, and just kind of, exhale a little bit. I think there's this whole battle of like going into your front porch and seeing your neighbors and kind of having to put on that face of like, oh no, things are going great. No, they're okay. And maybe that's true, but I don't think that's true for everybody, or at least not all the time. So yeah. Anyway, if you want to read all my thoughts about that, it's on our Patreon, patreon.com/Azulux, which most of y'all that are watching the stream are already patrons, and I thank the hell out of y'all for that. That's kind of where this started, is taking all of our patrons, letting them submit photos, and then saying mean things about them, because that's what Josh does, is say mean things, at least for this show. So yeah, throw out in the comments. Let me know that you're out there. you know, I know there's a little bit of lag, but it's fun for me to know that who's out there, who's watching. I don't really get a chance to see that. So we'll give it a couple more minutes and we'll start going through the photos. We have another good 10 photos. We actually had a little bit more, but a lot of people sent me 2 and they told me to pick. So we actually had about 14 photos selected, which was really fun. I always have a good time going through and looking at all these and just seeing the diversity of photos that we get. It's neat. I mean, we have travel photos, we have product photos, we have lifestyle photos, right? We have all these different types, landscape photos, so it's fun for me to see the diversity in what people go out and shoot. I'm always amazed. We'll host photo walks sometimes, and it's always amazing to me. We'll have, 20, 30 people go out on a photo walk, and we go the same route at the same time, same place, same light, and we'll come back an hour later and review the photos, and it's like everybody was almost on a different place. We'll pass the cameras back and forth and look at them and go, wait, where'd you see this at? Wait, where'd you see that at? And it's just so refreshing to me to realize that so much of it comes down to point of view, stance, what you want to say. And I think that photo walks are a great way to do that, right? It gives you a chance to just walk around, get your brain moving, kind of loosen up a little bit, and just shoot whatever you see. And I always think that's a good practice to go and just go out and walk and do things and kind of get some of those just mental reps in. There's no client, there's no expectation. You just kind of go out and walk, and maybe you get something, maybe you don't. Yeah. Hey, Jim. Hey, Kendra. Hey, Ronnie. I see y'all. Awesome. Hey, everyone. I think, but again, just showing the diversity of what we got submitted is kind of another way of saying, what's cool about photo walks is that we get such, even when we're all in the same place at the same time with the same light, we still get a diversity of submissions then as well. And I think that's really cool. I think we worry so much about gear and they have the same camera, they're going to get the same photo as me. And that's not true at all. I think we worry about so much and none of it really matters. It matters what do you internalize, right? We're artists, we're cultural sponges, right? We soak in our surroundings and then we kind of squeeze out our artwork. And so I think that's a good metaphor to kind of keep in my head. I read it from somebody on Twitter, that artists are the cultural sponges of society. And I think that's such a cool way to think about what we do. So, we got Adam Grumbo. Oh, man, what's up? Good to see you, buddy. I see Mayhem's Muse, Miss Jenny Lynn, just talking to her on the phone a little while ago. Hello, everybody. We give everybody a chance to get started and get logged in. So, let's just go ahead and get started. Why don't we? All right. So let's see if we can push that live. There we go. Cool. Oh, right click. Get our chat widget going. Let's see if we can get the chat up in the window. Sorry about that. I always forget about that. There we go. All right, Miguel, what's up, man? How's everybody? So the first photo that we have today is a submission from Brian Nixon, my good buddy Brian Nixon. And I love this photo. It feels very much like a Orwellian, like 1984. It reminds me a little bit of that Wall Street bull, the little girl on Wall Street. It kind of reminds me of that, right? That the defiant stance, that wide, just power stance. What's up, Naomi? Yeah, and Adam, yeah. Yay, Mayhem. Yeah, we all love Mayhem as a model. But I really love this video face in the background, or this, I don't know if it's a video wall or if it's a mosaic or what it is, but it's just this Orwellian monolith that this little girl whose face we can't see is just eyeballing down. And I really think that's a fun kind of metaphor. There's a lot going on there. As for the mean things part, I would like to see photographer move about 10 feet to their left, where this little girl in her power stance is lined up almost directly against that face, where it's just There's no where there'd be no middle ground. There wouldn't be any school bus or any of the kids back there. Where it'd be just the girl, just the face, and get rid of all those other distractions. And I think that'd make it even more graphic and more powerful. I do really like how this has a good foreground and a good background going on. Right, there's a strong subject in the foreground, and it relates to a very strong graphic nature in the background. So though that foreground and background playing with each other is really, really good. I think a lot of landscape photography suffers from this in the sense that oftentimes we either have a really good foreground or a really good background, right? We have a sunrise, a sunset, or a mountain, but we don't have anything leading up to it. And I think this is a good example of a foreground element relating to the background. So yeah, this is from Chicago. Adam, for next show, I'll be accepting submissions again for the next show. It takes me a little while to prep all these and write some notes up. So you can send me an email at josh@azulox.com for next show. We'll be doing that in 2 weeks. So yeah, go ahead and throw those out there and just in the subject line just say Josh says mean things or something like that. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, that's Chicago from my good friend Brian. I hope I got that right. So yeah, I would just clean up the midground a little bit, but I love the foreground, love the background. Yeah, cool. So let's go to our next one, Bar Top. I don't know if that's what that's what I call this one. I have no idea when this photo was taken, and I mean that in a good way. I think this photo could have been taken 100 years ago. It could have been taken yesterday. It has a very timeless black and white conversion, which is really neat. It's got a little bit different format, so it's not the traditional digital 3x2 format. It has a little bit of a square crop, but not a square crop. So maybe it was shot on film, or maybe it was shot on 120. I don't know. At any rate, I really like what's going on here. I think this photo, you could almost see it 100 years ago with some guy with like a big mustache and like that little wide brim hat standing in the corner. You're like, oh yeah, that was shot from 100 years ago, or it might have been shot yesterday. And I think that's one of the beauties of black and white, right? I think that's why black and white is always going to be an aesthetic, is because it links so much back to the heritage of photography, right? Color wasn't accepted as fine art until like the 70s. And so maybe 120 years of photography before color was even accepted as art, right? And it really wasn't until Eggleston in the late 70s until that was really a thing. So I think black and white's always going to be around, right? It's always going to have that harken back to a different time and link from a different time to now. I think the other beauty of black and white is that it lets your imagination go to work. Even though I know this is a black and white conversion. Oh, cool. Yeah, I love now. I love nows. But it lets your imagination work, right? It also allows you to kind of push contrast a little bit more. Sometimes when we push contrast with color, it kind of overwhelms the color channels, and it can really kind of get off the rails. So I think with black and white, you can really push the blacks, push the whites even more, and it feels more natural than it would necessarily with color. But yeah, just a fun scene. Nows is a classic, right? Nows has been around forever. And so treating this in black and white, I think, goes really well with the subject, right? Now that I know it's Nows. I figured that's where it was. Yeah, I just did a lifestyle shoot there in the last year with some different fashion and stuff. It just has an aesthetic that there's not much left in Austin. I always joke that Austin doesn't have anything old, right? And this is one of them. Right now, Huts is now closed, right? There's not a lot of old left in Austin. It's kind of like Vegas in that way. There's no old left. So yeah, it kind of makes me sad as well that we don't have those old like rundown things. Like if you go to San Antonio, it has more character and like age to it. As photographers, right, we love that kind of grit and grime and that different feel and those different textures. And there's just not a lot of that in Austin. You kind of have to travel outside of town to get that sort of thing. Would I make it darker, Deborah? I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's a good balance. That like if you start on the left hand side of the photo and then we move to the right hand side, it's a good blend of going from like shadow dark to highlights and whites, and so it gives contrast, right? And then we also have the reflection of it as well, and so that's a point of interest. I guess it's reflection. I'm not sure, but no, I think it's well done. I don't. The only little composition thing that bothers me is that little light at the very top right. I would have liked to have seen either that the rest of that cable tie to that light, or clone out that little light. It's just a little bit there, but I love the clutter in the bottom. Just on the that top right is a little bit distracting. That's a minor point, very very minor point. But yeah, no, it's fun, right? I think it's a great idea to go and document those things. I live in Pflugerville, and driving around, there's been times where it's been like man, I need to get my camera out and go shoot this field, and then 6 months later, I didn't do it, and the field's now apartments, and I'm kicking myself. I'm like, man, I should have taken that, right? I'm the person to document these things. Like, I need to go out and document what's going on. And where I live is such a changing area that, man, those farm fields aren't going to be around for much longer. And wouldn't it be nice if you had those frames to show what it used to be? And so, I think it's a great idea to go out and document what's going on. If you ever run out of ideas, right, just go and document what's around you, right? Now, it takes a little bit of foresight in that you have to think about it. You have to think about what are those things that I'm attracted to, and then get off your butt and go and do them. But not every photo has to be amazing, but doing things in a series can really add impact, right? Hey, I'll tell you one that I want to do. I'll tell you one I want to do, and this is kind of a funny one. I love all of the terrible puns that hair salons use. Like, not good hair salons. I mean, like, low-budget hair salons. I love them. And for years, I've had this idea to go and just document all the ones I could find, and I've never started it. I wish I could. I wish I would have started. But it's always like cut and shoot or sheer elegance or some bad pun. And I just think they're hilarious. And that if I had to do a series of like buildings, that's what I would do is still lifes of all the bad hair shops and all of their awesome dad pun names. Because that's right up my alley. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, hair and back. Yeah. 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 Stuff like that. Right. Yeah, those are great. Cool. So next up, we have a landscape photo from Curl Up and Die. We should start at like a Twitter hashtag for that kind of stuff, because I don't know. I just find it hilarious. And they're so bad, but they're so good. Anyway, it's like a good B movie. Yeah, so this is from a buddy of mine, Andy Sams, who used to be here in Austin, but he moved out to the East Coast. But you're speaking my language with desert landscapes. I love the desert. I love the American Southwest, West Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, Utah. Like that's my jam. Like that's where I really love being. And so this photo really kind of speaks to me. It has a very sublime feel to it. Right, we have this leading line coming through the photo, right, starting in the foreground, leading line, and it leads to those, I don't know, the bluff in front of us. And then we have the Ocotillos kind of arcing over, and that provides that internal framing to the walking path. Now, I would say that I think that center 20%, that vertical center 20%, is the interesting part. And I think this photo would have been better maybe with a longer lens and a vertical crop to really frame just that Ocotillo framing the bluff and the path leading up to it. I think because we went, hey, what's up, Emily and Jasper? And I think because it shot wide on the right hand side of the photo, those Ocotillos kind of get cropped off, and you're kind of running out of room to give it some space. And so I think the different choice might be to do a longer vertical shot where it's just the Ocotillo, the bluff, the path leading up to that. Right. Anytime we have a leading line, we need to have a payoff. Right. That leading line needs to lead to something. and have a payoff, right? It's like setting up a joke, right? A horse walked into a bar and then never finishing the joke, right? So we need to have that. We need to have that punchline to pay off the setup. And I think this photo does an okay job of that. The other way that this photo might have been enhanced is getting lower. And by getting lower, we would have made that bluff more dramatic, right? By getting lower, we can make things look more superhero, right? You see a superhero, shoot it from low, right? And so making those bluffs feel more like a superhero can make that interesting. And it would bring the foreground a little bit more into it. But it would take away some of the internal framing of the Ocotillo. So, that's a choice there. But yeah, I think just a different crop and a different orientation might be an interesting way to go back and photograph this one. But I love the mood, right? That pale blue sky, the orange of the Ocotillo, really good contrast, the yellow and green of the sage. I think all of those could really make it a little bit more powerful. But I do like the vibe and the mood of it. There's just a few little technical things I would clear up. All right, so next we're going from the American Southwest across the ocean. Oh, I should say happy Cinco de Mayo, everybody. I have my Topo Chico as it's a Topo Chiquito. That's what gets me through these broadcasts when I talk straight for 45 minutes. So this is from our friend Kira Hand. And she wanted to ask me with this photo, hey, when you're taking travel photos, what can I do to make them better? And I think the interesting thing with travel, I think a lot of times we're so enamored with a place that we want to show all of it. We want to show these huge cityscapes, these huge panoramas, the super wide angle, and we just want to show all of it. And I think the hard part is, and what she tried to do here, yeah, Debbie, yeah, I made fajitas last night. I'm going to have some leftovers when I'm done. I'm pretty excited. Might have to have some Patron as well. And I think what Kira did here, right, is focusing on just this lantern. And we kind of have some leading lines leading up to that lantern. But again, I think the crop kind of lets this one down. The entire left, like 30% of this photo is pretty dark. And not that I'm not there for mood and negative space, but I think a vertical crop and just showing just the lamp, getting even tighter, getting even closer, right? And again, that's the balancing act of cityscape and travel photography. Think of it like a magazine editor might want, right? You definitely need that establishing shot, but after that, it's all in the details, in the close-ups, and the super close. I think the goal is how little of something can I show and still leave it suggestively recognizable, right? Think Paris and the Eiffel Tower. Do you need to show a cityscape with the entire Eiffel Tower? Or might it be more interesting to show just one leg art, right? Or just the top, or just a part of it to suggest the whole. And I think that's certainly a thing in travel is how little can I show and still make it recognizable? I think with photography in general, if you want to make something interesting, show less. And so this is right on that edge of like, do I need to zoom in and show more? Do I need to walk closer and show more? Or do I need to back up and see a little bit more of the scene? And this one feels hesitant to me. I love the lighting and the mood that this light is coming off of. But I think this triangle, there's a triangle that empties into this lamp, and I think just that, so maybe just 50%, right? Cropping just to the triangle of the open blinds, I think that would show even less and make it more. Yeah, so that's kind of a tough one. I do like it, right? I like that we can't see all of the script. We can't see everything, and so that's why I think it's halfway there. I think what you saw was right. Just need to punch in a little bit and to finish up the rest of the way, and I think that might make it a little bit more impactful. But I really love this photo. Okay, and Naomi, I know that you are viewing, so now I get to say mean things about yours. All right. So first off, this costume is legit. I want to shoot in this costume now. I want to go photograph this person, and this jewelry, and this sword, and this cool scarf or cape, or right. You want to make something cool, throw a cape on it. Yeah, I love all of that stuff that's going on there. I think for this photo, it's a photo in two parts. Her face and the scarf getting thrown up in the air, that is the right moment. Her expression and that scarf in the air, right? Peak of action. Really cool. I think the bottom half kind of lets the image down. The legs aren't quite to that power pose. Her feet, it's almost the moment from the bottom third of the photo. The other thing, the sword is almost you almost can't see the entire sword. So having maybe the sword raised to show more of the sword, or something. But I feel like we're losing the sword and we're losing like some more power out of her legs. And I think that kind of hurts a little bit. The other thing that might be interesting is if we had moved maybe 5 feet to the left, again, assuming that you could move 5 feet to the left as always. But framing her face and the arc of that scarf, that could be cool. And having maybe the sword, I don't know, doing something. If she was running, I'd be interested to see if there was one where she was moving across the frame instead of at the frame, right? Instead of at the camera, across the camera, just to see. It's not a sword. What is it? Is it a sai? What do we got? Some type of implement. It looked like she was a hilt of a sword. Anyway, maybe getting a little bit lower to bring her face in relation to the arc of that scarf. Again, this is a perfect world where you can go back and reshoot everything you want. These type of shots are ridiculously hard to get on your own. It usually helps to have about 5 people helping you with a shot like this. When you have somebody just throwing the scarf and somebody just making sure the wardrobe stays on and all of that. So I know the effort that goes into this type of shoot. I do this type of shoot, not all the time, but enough to know that it's not easy to pull off. But I love her expression. I love this she has like a growl to it, right? And I definitely feel that growl. So I like to be in maybe a little bit closer. There's a little bit of space beneath her feet. Maybe we could crop up a little bit, but then maybe you get rid of that light leak in the top. So you can't really see it on the stream, but the way the light is kind of glinting off, it has kind of a cool haze around it. Makes it feel a little bit ethereal. It may be hard to see on this resolution, but yeah, I want to see more from this set. This is interesting. I want to see more. Naomi, send me more from this set. I want to see more. Because there's a lot going on here. Yeah. But it's that cool, like, greens and blues, and it definitely sets a mood, right? It's not trying to be the perfect photo. It's trying to set, like, art, and I think that's a good thing. So, is that my cat? All right. So next we have one from Mark Lassaud, and this is called Balancing. My cat is doing something weird behind me. Hope y'all can't hear that. It doesn't sound healthy. I love the anticipation of this photo. This is the punchline. This is the setup to the punchline, and we're just waiting for the next thing to fall. Right? You see this little not leaf, but I don't know what you call it. Part of the flower that's balancing, and it's just waiting. You're just right. It's one of those photos where you kind of lean forward in your seat, and you're like, "Is it gonna fall?" And even though it's a still shot, we're kind of waiting for it to fall. Again, really good black and white conversion. I like the crop of this too. It has weight to it. I think the weight is good. It makes an S. So if you look at the top of the balancing flower stem thing coming down, we have this nice S going on. And that's always a great shape to try to find in your photos, right? Having that nice S curve as a model, right? That's always a good thing. But in landscape, it's hard to find those. In nature, it's hard to find that S. I think the way the stem to, the plant and then to the leaf falling up. That's a really cool curve going on. So I really like that. I really just like the feel and that something's about to happen. And we're right at that moment between happening and not happening. And I think that's a fun place to be in photography, right? It's that moment of, right? I like that the background isn't distracting. I like the whites, the blacks, right? Very well toned. Again, good black and white conversion. I think this photo would actually be less interesting in color. I think the black and white is definitely the right thing to go with because it adds some abstractness and it lets you just focus on the moment and not so much of like, is the green the right shade of green, right? It distills the work down to what the photographer wants you to see and wants you to feel, and not a lot of extraneous. So good work, Mark. Okay. Next, we have one from Kendra, who finally gets to A, view, and B, submit. So what's up, Kendra? So I will say one thing about this photo. The red, when she sent it to me, looked way better. But she sent it to me as a TIFF. And I converted the TIFF to JPEG, and I didn't apparently do a very good job of converting it. And so this red looks very muted. And it really wasn't in the photo that she submitted to me. Let me Topo Chico break. Okay, good. So I think the weight of this photo is good, right? I think, the donut being on one side, the sprinkles on the other. I think that's good, right? The exposure's good. We use some lighting, so nice, even. That's all interesting. Much like glitter, I want more. I want more sprinkles. I want more glitter. I want more motion. So imagine the difference of this photo of what we see versus a whole bunch of sprinkles being dropped as this photo was taken. Maybe with some motion blur, maybe with some second curtain sync, just sprinkles bouncing all over the place. Bah! I think that could be very, I think it would add a lot more energy to it. As a still life, it's okay, but there needs to be more. I think a lot of us in photography, we get caught halfway. We start with an idea, something happens, we run out of time or energy or whatever, and we get caught halfway in the photo. This one needed like 10 pounds more sprinkles. Just, and like coming from the viewpoint of the camera and just bouncing off the donut and going crazy. Think about what that would look like. And I think it'd be a much more dynamic photo. If you want to do something where everything's still, a lot more sprinkles, right? A donut sitting on top of sprinkles subverts what we normally think about. Normally think about sprinkles on top of the donut, but what if the donut was on top of the sprinkles? Something to try, right? Play around, see what works. The other thing you could do if you had a macro, get way close and just focus on just part, right? So instead of showing the whole donut, just show 1/4 of the donut. So bring your crop down to show just 1/4 to suggest the rest of the curve, right? And that could be more interesting as well. So this photo did look better and had a better exposure on in the TIFF file. And I brought it up and it was like, ooh, JPEG, 8-bit versus 16-bit. Color conversion, no. So yeah. All right. So next up we have our friends Emily and Jasper. They were just one of our voyeur participants. And then I had done a light painting of her. I think I got her grandpa's truck. And her family was like, light wands are cool. And then this is where the genesis of this photo came from, because then all of her family wanted to play with light wands. And so now we have Emily with this pet that's doing an amazing job posing. We have Emily getting a little stir crazy with her crazy. She maybe thinks that thing's still alive. No, I'm kidding. But I love the light one in the background, right? How to take a normal scene and make it different, right? We're cooped up in our houses. How can you get weird, right? How many of my classes are, and Josh says, and now let's get weird. And this is a great example of that, right? Oh, it's a still life on a couch, kind of the George Costanza pose. But then throw a light one behind it. You can make a totally new background. I would say two things with exposure. The floor is a little bright. which isn't a problem except that it takes away from the dog and Emily's face. So if we used a gradient tool to come up from the bottom, and just a negative gradient tool to darken the bottom of the couch and that white floor, because our eyes kind of tend to want to dive down to the lower left, and so instead of that, if we darken that up, I think your eyes are going to more gradually come up to face and dog. Ceramic dog. What is it? She had a funny title for this, something like I don't know, quarantine exotic or something like that. I don't remember, but yeah, Ronnie, you do need to get a light wand. I love white wands. Funny story about light wands. The last wedding I shot before the quarantine hit, my light wand got run over by a wedding guest. I was trying to light paint the groom's car, and it was at night, and a Jeep came too close to me and ran over my light wand. And then I was like, wait. He's like, what? And then he backed up and ran over it again. So it ended up being in like 8 pieces. I was very sad. So I got a new light wand. It's actually, I don't know if you can see this blue light on the side of my face right here. That's coming in from the new, I'm using a Nan light RGB light wand. What I like about that is it has an AC adapter. You can just plug it in the wall and use it whenever you want. And so I really like that. It has a little bit more range of colors, I think. I don't like that it takes 2 seconds to turn it off. One of the things I liked about the Savage was you could just hit a button and turn it off, whereas this one takes a press and hold. So for light painting cards, it's a little bit, it's okay. I'm still trying to figure it out. But anyway, that's the blue light. It's my new light wand. It's been really useful in all our Zoom calls and all of the virtual conferencing we've had to be doing lately, so I use it quite a bit. Anyway, so this is a really fun light wand. And, put your camera on a tripod, long exposure, run through the room, and twist the knob to change colors as you're going. So, yeah, I do teach a light wand class at Precision. I'm really looking forward to actually teaching classes with people again. So stay tuned. Maybe in June we'll get back to that. We'll see. But, yeah, I do teach a light wand class. They're really fun. As part of the class, you get the light wand. So that's really awesome. So. Cool. Anyway, I like that y'all played Emily and Jasper. That's really fun. Keep playing, right? That's the whole story. That's the secret of life. Keep playing. Yeah. I don't know who took this one. I ended up in my download folder. I think it's Naomi. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's Naomi. It feels like one of her photos. It also could be one of my photos. It kind of feels, it's not mine, but it has all the lights going on, which I love. I love a lot of color and just craziness. So yeah, I love the color and all the lights and the orange blue, the purple blue contrast. I think it's really fun. One thing on cropping, the chin kind of is cropped off like right almost there, but not either. I would come up a little bit higher or come down a little bit lower, right? If there was a little bit more space for the chin or almost just under the lips, but I think we're kind of in a weird spot with the chin crop. Right, it's like our face, right? We can crop just above the eyebrows, or we can crop above what people have with like car photos. What can I cut off? Where can I stop the frame? If I don't want to show the whole car, what are some safe spots to shoot, right? Where do I stop my composition? Landscape, man, that's absolutely what I struggle with landscape when I shoot landscape photos is, right? Where do I stop my composition? I want to show everything. What edge is safe for me to stop. And so with portraits, there's definitely some rules. They're made to be broken. But on this one, just the tip of the chin is just, I'd come in a little bit. But otherwise, I love the mood. The other critique I have, I like the texture in these orange lights in the corner. So we have these orange lights kind of in the corner. And the gauze over those has a cool like texture to it. But then over the face, we kind of lose all that texture. And I don't know if that was photoshopped out. It doesn't look photoshopped out. I don't know why, but I would have liked to have seen a little more texture. Something else you can do with photos like this is grab that gauze and bring it all the way to the camera lens and kind of shoot through the camera lens to give some different depth to it. We have a good background. We have a middle ground, but if you wanted to add a foreground, again, stylistic choice, but if you wanted to add a foreground, grab that gauze and bring it to your lens, and then it'll get some different effects, and it'll pick up different shades of light as well. So that's just an option. It's not something you have to do, but it's just something you could do. But yeah, I really like the, not yours. I'm not sure who did this. Okay. I'm not sure then. Anyway, I like the photo. It's fun. There's a lot of lights going on, so that's good. Cool. All right. Uh-oh. Let's say it says not. All right. So next we have a detail of a Porsche. And I only know it's a Porsche because it says Porsche. I'm not that good of an automotive car where I can just tell a stick shift and tell you what it is. Yeah, I know, Naomi. Look, it looks like it could have been one of mine too. I know. But yeah, so I really like this Porsche, right? It's a nice graphic element. And then everything else just kind of fades away. I like that there's good negative space. We have a highlight on the Porsche, and then everything else just kind of goes dark. Right, it has a very nice mood to it, a nice feel. Doesn't make it want to your hand wants to go to it and touch it and feel it. You know, the thing I would change about this one, we have this cool arc on one side, and it's just trimmed off. If we could move the photo like 10 pixels to the right, and then maybe like 10% up to have that arc maybe in the lower third of the photo. You know, just come up with it a little bit and move over just slightly. I think it could be even more impactful. But I really like the way this photo feels. I like the texture of the leather, the you know, the feel of all that stuff. So stream status poor, which is crazy because yeah. Sorry, it's saying my streaming status is poor, but I'm on gigabit Ethernet and I'm plugged in directly to a wall, so I don't know. But anyway, I like the feel. Just a little bit technical. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of the arc of the stick shift, the silver kind of horseshoe looking part. So, yeah. All right, and last but certainly not least, we have this really cool photo from Miguel. I really like this photo. I think it's a good illustration of our time, the time that we're going through right now. It's a really interesting editorial photo. We have a woman dressed up with high heels and a crown. It took me 3 times looking at this photo to realize she was wearing a crown. The observant viewer that I am. But you know, I really like this really nice light coming through the window, right? If you want to make something more dramatic, add a backlight. And then the shadows are kind of in the front, and she's a little underexposed, but in a good way. She shouldn't be overexposed because the light is motivated, right? The light's coming from the window, bouncing off the wall, and just kind of filling in her face just a little bit. But she's sitting on top of laundry, right? So she's probably staying at home doing laundry, but wishes she was out wearing a crown, dressed up, high heels, someplace to go. So as a photo with commentary of something to say, I really enjoyed this one. I really like the warmth, the tone, and all of those things going on. So yeah, good job here, Miguel. Good job. I like it. Yeah, and I like the way she's like leaning up against, and just like she's had enough of this. You know, the face goes, the expression goes with the moment, goes with the dress, goes with the shoes. It all just works together. And it's a good example that you don't need a ton of space to make something interesting. You know, this was shot in from what I can tell, a very narrow room. But it still looks really good. Also, there's nothing distracting from it, right? Our vertical lines are vertical. You know, there's nothing egregious where it takes your eye away from what you're supposed to be seeing. You know, I think as we advance in our photography, the big skill to learn outside of any other skill is showing only exactly what you want to show. And by composition, by lens, by lighting, getting rid of everything else so that all that's left is exactly what you want the viewer to see. And that may be landscape, it may be portrait, it may be product, it may be whatever genre you're in. But honestly, that's the goal. The goal is at the end, the viewer only sees and only feels exactly what you want them to see and feel. Right? No distracting elements. The verticals are vertical. Nothing takes away except from the message that you're trying to deliver. So that's some food for thought there. But anyway, Miguel, really great photo. I want to see more from the series. Yeah. So, all right. So, what'd y'all think of all the photos for round 3 of Josh Says Mean Things? Pretty cool work, right? We had a lot of different genres. We had a lot of different styles. We had some really bright stroby colors. We had some very subdued golden tones. We had very chill landscapes, right? And so I think it just goes to show that whatever you see, just be the best you. I wouldn't worry about trying to replicate other people's work except as a way to maybe hone a skill. But I think if you try to be the best you and just take your vision as far as you can take it, I think that's where success really comes from. Instead of, at first you need to replicate people, other photographers, other artists, as a way to learn how they did it. But once you internalize it, then go out and say what only you could say. Go out and say and photograph and make your art in a way that only you could have made it. And it doesn't have to be correct. It just needs to be impactful. Okay, average is over. My favorite economist, George Mason, he wrote a book called Average is Over, which basically says you can either be extremely horrible or extremely good, and you'll get attention that way. Everything else in the middle is there's no market for it. Right? Think about Super Bowl commercials. You either remember the amazing ones that make you feel something, right? Those good Budweiser horses like running through the snow, and you're like, oh. Or the terrible, like Geico, right? Geico's commercials are terrible, but you remember them. So if you want to be memorable, average is over. So really push your vision, push what you're trying to say with things, and just keep iterating and pushing on them forward and forward and forward. It only took me 9 years before I felt like I got to where I was saying the things I wanted to say with my lighting, my composition, my exposure, and all that. So it is a long road. I did have some successes along the way, but I feel entirely comfortable with picking up a camera now, whereas for the first literally 9 or 10 years, I always felt like I was replicating somebody else instead of just doing me. So, yeah. Anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed episode 3 of Josh Says Mean Things. If you like what we do and you haven't already, go check out our Patreon. We're doing a whole bunch of cool stuff there. I'll be recording a new podcast episode for y'all on Friday. And we'll have some more articles coming up for that. So if y'all have any requests, go ahead and throw those out there as well. If there's people y'all want me to go talk to, I'm down for that. If there's photos of mine that y'all want me to break down in big detail about how I did it, just send me an email or send me a message, and screenshot a pic and say, hey, how the hell did you do this? And I'll be happy to break it down and kind of show you, what we do. So anyway, thanks for streaming with us. I appreciate y'all, and see you on 2 weeks on the episode 4 of Josh Says Mean Things. All right. Have a good night.